Hello, I'm Robin Gibson, and this is the Harvard House Money Morsel. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell so you get a notification of when releasing a new video. I'm sitting today with Willie Palser. Willie, warm welcome.
Like Trump, I would say I've got a present for you.
Oh, you got a present for me. Is that 8 ships? I'll take 8 ships of oil any day, Willie.
Sure.
Yeah, so I mean, we do carry on, and you don't know whether what he's saying is true or not. But Willie, obviously, we're still going to be on this war for some time until that really, because that is the focal point of global economics. But we had during the course, or late last week, we had, whether it was intentional or a rogue missile, hit the Qatari LNG. Well, it hit the Iranian LNG plant in the Gulf, and the Iranians responded by hitting the Qatari,
Yes.
which is part of the same bed, I think.
Yeah.
But you were sharing with me some very interesting research around that liquid gas plant from Qatar. So maybe just give us some
Robin,
insight.
I think that just back to the concept of the war, we're going to talk about this effectively every week. And at some point, it's getting bored. We're getting bored in the sense interest rates, and oil price and all of those things. So I think the chess game will continue. That's what's going to happen there. And we all know the term checkmate. Stalemate, sorry. So the question is, who will get stale first, and who's your mates?
Yeah.
I think that's
very
where
much
we're heading. So back to the LNG story, Robin. It was the 18th of March,
Yeah.
and I think it has changed the outcome for years to come from an global energy perspective.
Yes.
And the reason I'm saying that is the global economic system went to a point of decentralization. So yes, if you could get your LNG and your oil or whatever from that side of the world, you did it because it was an input cost. You don't have to build this stuff, that type of thing. And Iran retaliated. They sent 5 missiles. 4 were intercepted. 1 hit that Qatari plant.
Yeah.
And effectively 17% of their LNG capacity or generation or distribution is completely wiped out.
Yeah.
Now, 17% might not sound a lot. So the context here is to rebuild a plant. And we're talking, there's 2 sort of gas concepts there. There's a S4 and a S6. And I'm not a gas expert principle, but there's lots of concepts around what happened there. The one is, yes, those 2 to rebuild that will take 3 to 5 years to again produce S4 and S6. Now, S4 and S6, they cool down to be sent into Europe, to be sent all over the world, to be used in all sort of application fields. So, so the effect of what has happened there will have an impact economic-wise. Now, the first one we all know, LNG prices up all over Europe, people will pay more type of thing. The uncertainty around this is the longevity, in the sense of you don't just put a plant in. Sasol went into the US many years ago with Lake Charles. That was a 10, 15 year with, type of thing. So that disappeared. So what else was actually exposed in that blast? And it's the concept of cooling, and that's helium.
Okay. Yeah.
Because to cool that gas to a liquefaction or liquefied form, you need helium to do that.
Yeah.
They obviously imported, or they get the helium from whatever plant or whatever they get. That's also under strain. So what we're going to see potentially going forward, and that's the sort of research I've done to look into it, was to see, but what's going to change. So the first dynamic is, I think the world will look at alternative energy. Now, alternative energy has different meanings.
Yes.
The one is the greenies, and in the sense solar plant and that type of thing. The stick out, or the stand up for me, is actually uranium. I think we're going to see a revival in the uranium space, and I'm not going to debate the good and the bad of that type of thing, because the good element here is actually the producing of electricity or power. France is sorted.
Yes.
So if I look at
because they might be nuclear, aren't
they are mostly, so they sorted. They're not in this LNG space. What we're also going to see, might be wrong on this, but I think we're going to re-energize coal production because we're in need. There's a short-term need for energy. So the coal production will raise its head. And then, I think there will be a serious hunt for helium. So whoever can produce this helium. So if we look economic-wise, who doesn't have the biggest problems because of this Qatari principle of they've been hit? Sadly to say, but America is sort of fine because they've got their own oil. Australia is fine. The countries who's going to suffer the most is obviously those adjacent to the Middle East, India, Pakistan, East Asia, all of those, because they rely basically 100% on gas import.
Yes.
So if there's obviously less gas, that type of thing. So the gist of all of this is we can expect for the next 3 to 5 years a tone down in economic growth, GDP numbers all over the world. And obviously we've spoken about it before, a percentage change or a percentage rise in the price level in the global financial system. And the price level obviously comes through on inflation being higher, interest rates higher for longer, or in some cases might be hike interest rates again type of thing. So I don't think we're going to get away from this. But this specific incident has just highlighted for me the impact of the reliance of the world on energy. And then the global shift as to who's your mate, and who's your friends, and who's going to be in a position where the king is now stuck. He can't move. And I think will continue in the months going forward.
So, Willie, I mean, you talked about the East really being an issue, but Europe's got a massive problem because, we saw Ukraine 4 years ago when Russia invaded Ukraine. The big thing was the gas pipeline through into Europe.
Exactly.
And the Qatari plant really picked up that balance, didn't it?
So that disappeared.
And now we've disappeared. There's just no extra
There's some extra in the Scandinavian countries. I think Norway is a big beneficiary out of this in a sense of supply, and they're obviously close to the rest of mainland Europe, if you want to call it that way. So there will be winners and losers. I think brace. I'm not an alarmist, but brace ourselves that GDP, if we had a global expectation of sort of on average 4%, maybe it would be 3.5%. That type of thing. And we saw our Reserve Bank yesterday already acting in the sense of not changing interest rates. They just kept it the same. Through the
monetary policy.
Or the Reserve Bank in the US stayed the same. Hold. So I think that uncertainty is going forward.
Is going to carry on. Funny enough, I was thinking about a presentation I prepared for and looked at, our biggest value by exports, and first was gold and second was platinum. So I mean that's obviously been good, but actually third on that list was coal. Willie. And so this we might be a sort of beneficiary in this.
Robin, the war of unintended consequences.
That's very good.
We might be a beneficiary from a balance of payments perspective through coal. Now that the gold price is coming back a little bit. So I think this what I'm sketching is a whole change in, and there's opportunities. Obviously, us as asset managers, my first focus out of this is, are there uranium-related stuff that we can invest in? I'm not going to mention company names because then the clients will say, "Was myne?" And but that's the type of research we do. You look for the opportunity, given the balance of probabilities of a war continuing type of thing.
And perversely, Gwede Mantashe might look like a hero after this.
Exactly.
Well, Willie, it's really nice to chew the fat. We could go on this forever. Really appreciate you sharing that piece of research with me. It was good to chat about it. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Join us next time. Bye-bye.